Sage Shabazz.
Shabazz, yeah.
Right on. So, the usual question I ask people, what brings you to the cold? Like, what's your calling?
So for me, my venture here was kind of weird. Like I did ice baths playing football growing up.
Okay.
But recently, it was part of my recovery. I had alcoholism, still do, and I came here during treatment. And
Wait, you're still under alcoholism, your own journey at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm still in recovery, and that was like a big part of my recovery.
Got it. So you're not still using?
No.
Nice,
no.
good for you. Yeah.
But I remember I came here for the first time, and it was just like I was kind of hooked after that. I've always been a big fitness guy. So I do really like the benefits from a physical recovery standpoint, but there's a lot of mental benefits that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
As far as cold water immersion, cold water therapy.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I know you're into fitness. I should have had you do this interview with your shirt off. As well as all the other beasts up in here, right?
Yeah. I don't know if everyone wants to see that. So.
I'll force them to.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so for the recovery, also on the physical aspect, now on the mental aspect is to go through the alcoholism and stuff.
Yeah, it's not only alcoholism, but trauma as well. So the UK, their version of the VA actually recently did a study on cold water therapy for PTSD symptoms.
Oh, right on.
And for me, multiple.
How recent was this, by the way?
I think that study was the last 2 years.
Good for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
It
found out.
hasn't started here yet, for sure. Huh?
No, but I found out about it when I was going to the VA here, and they were asking me, what I do for physical recovery in my free time, and I told them cold water therapy, and they're like, you probably like it because it's very good trauma exposure therapy.
Yeah, awesome.
Because the release of dopamine, norepinephrine, it stimulates your vagus nerve, and it reduces cortisol levels. So
you dropping all the big jargons in the whole cold plunging space, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very not well known mechanism, because a lot of people look at it like, I'm just not going to be sore the next day. But there's so many different aspects, and when you incorporate things like breathing into your cold plunge routine, it's so much more beneficial for your overall well-being from a holistic level.
Oh, wow. You're well-rounded and well-versed when it comes to just those holistic approach on things. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, within the last year, I took a newfound approach to, my well-being. It used to always just be go to the gym, look good.
Yeah.
And, I started getting injuries, and then, I had my own injuries, I guess you could say, from a mental standpoint, whether it be from deployment or self-medicating with, drugs or alcohol. So yeah, I decided enough was enough, and wanted to get back to that, level of fitness that I was at before. But the piece I was missing was, that recovery piece, not only physically, but mentally.
And how hard did you go? I'm just curious, how hard did you go with alcohol? In terms of volume of alcohol you were drinking?
I was a real one.
Yeah. A real one?
Yeah, I was a real one. It got
military volume?
Yeah, it started there, you know, and I think, like many of us, we try to self-medicate, so we don't have to feel some of the things that we've experienced in the past. And, I, like many vets, went down that road, and it kind of consumed my life for a while, and I lost sight of who I was as a person. I've always been an athlete, I've always been fit, and there was a good solid 2 years, where I couldn't run a mile, and I never got fat, but I was skinny, I was weak.
I mean, you figure with that less of weight, you'd be able to run.
Yeah.
But what was it that kept you or hindered that running process?
Just being out of shape, you know. I had no cardiovascular fitness. I was kind of like a couch potato,
I see. Wow. So you were catching your breath, just reaching for the remote control.
And I wouldn't say that bad, but yeah. I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I got fortunate enough. People care about me. I got the treatment I needed, and started working very hard on the mental health standpoint, and got back to where I was, and Fortunately enough, I get to do the things I do today and work out and come here, sauna, plunge. But I try to make it like a religious 2 to 3 times a week part of my routine.
Yeah, awesome. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of people's lives where they can go back home to their family because you have a kid.
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old boy.
An 8-year-old boy, and he needs his dad on the top of his game.
For sure, for sure.
Talk about this boy. Was it planned, surprised?
No, it was planned. So we had talked about it for, a while. Had a little bit of difficulty having children, and, one day I come home and find out she was pregnant. We were in Japan at the time, in Okinawa.
Yeah, okay. On vacation?
No, I was stationed there for 3 years when I was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah, he was born out there, lived there the first, 6 months to a year of his life, and then we came back to the States.
Oh, beautiful. What's his name?
Abel.
Abel, that's right. You mentioned that before. And Abel, how long was he in Okinawa before you guys moved back
about
to the States?
6 months to a year. Yeah, so he was born March 2016. I came back August 2017. So, so just over a year.
My man qualifies for dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Right?
He wasn't born off base, or else he would,
That's right.
He was born on a military installation,
Dan, that's wild that it could still be considered that little carved out portions in American territory.
Yeah, but he was, his passport says Japan, place of birth, so.
But it's one of those, Jeopardy questions. I'll make sure I have that answered properly, you know what I mean? Okay, so you went through that whole military trauma, to even, physical trauma dating before the military trauma, at least to your body and whatnot. And you arrived at the cold plunge. What other stuff do you do? Are you heavy into meditation?
Yeah, I am. I haven't been as consistent recently as I'd like to be.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing to stay consistent with myself as well.
Yeah, but I think it's so simple to just take 5 minutes out of your day. So for me, I think it starts in the morning. Your morning routine kind of sets the tone for your day. So for me, it's wake up, journal a little bit. I think everything starts with gratitude. So start my day with a little bit of gratitude, and depending on where I'm going that day is when my meditation will take place. Sometimes it's as simple as, I drive up to work, and before I go in and start my day, I spend 5 minutes in the car just kind of disconnecting. A lot of times I do it here, in the water. I think that's the most effective meditation time I get is when I'm in the plunge. Or before I go to bed, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. But I feel like...
Oh, you make it pretty convenient, huh? Just instill it through parts of your days and so on.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to make it, a routine and a habit that sticks, And it's not so much about, scheduling time throughout the day, but just scheduling the activities you want to do. And then doing those, doesn't matter when you do them, as long as you do them in order. And I noticed that kind of takes the stress out of it, and makes it part of your daily life.
Right, because the indecisions will bring about a lot of stress.
Yeah, and sometimes, work changes, you got to come in early, or, for me, got to pick the kid up at school. So it can throw off your routine, but as long as you have okay, I've done X, Y, and Z, now I have these things left, it just maintains consistency.
Yeah, and all of that. So you seem very organized, which is a lot better than I am.
I try to be.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just like the wind. I just don't know which direction I'm going to blow in that day.
Yeah. I feel like it's taken a lot of practice because I'm the same way. And if I don't get organized, things just won't happen. Or I'll just, get preoccupied with stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm doing 9 different things when I should be doing one thing.
Yeah.
So I just,
let me give myself one of these real quick.
So I just try to, establish some consistency, but that's not to say, I'm not human. I'm not consistent every single day, but that's something that, I'm really working on, at least with the holistic recovery standpoint, is being consistent, having those 3 pieces,
Yeah. Do you feel as though once you reach a point where your balance you're strong, your mind's clear, you've gotten things accomplished, and now you've got free time. Now you can kind of wander off and free flow like a kid all over again.
Yeah, I mean, you always got to have time to do something new, to experience something new. But I think it's really dependent on the person, you know. For me, I think it's just being, you know, mentally fit, emotionally fit, physically fit, and spiritually fit.
Yeah.
And all of those have different tenets. So, like, what do you have to do to satisfy each one of those, right? So, for mentally, maybe it's like, hey, I want to learn, you know, these things, right? Emotionally, it's like maybe you go to therapy, maybe it's I don't know, you know. From a physical standpoint, obviously I go to the gym a lot, and then like a spiritual standpoint, that's a person to person thing. You know, some people turn to the church.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, love being out in nature. Some people, you know, meditation and yoga is their thing. So, but I think as long as you have all of those tenets and you're working at each one of those in some aspect, you know, it really changes your outlook on life.
Yeah, absolutely. When I hear you speak of the tenets you abide by, name like your favorite book off the top of your head.
My favorite book?
Yeah, it seems like you're well read.
Favorite book?
Perhaps maybe your top three, not necessarily.
I don't know if I have a favorite book. I can tell you what I'm reading now, and that is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Yeah.
Let go, huh?
Yeah.
Not giving a fuck, for sure.
Yeah, it's a counterintuitive approach, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just not caring, it's just letting go. You know, understanding you can control what you can control. But there's so many things that are going to transpire around you that are absolutely out of your control.
Yeah, sure.
And the only thing you can do is just show up and do what you're supposed to, and not have expectations for the outcome.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And then the next day, show up again, and eventually you'll get to the outcome that you seek. It just may not be the route that you chose from the beginning.
Yeah. No. Who sets the boundaries for Sage to say, "Hey, I don't give a fuck about that today"?
Yeah.
What are the things that box you in? You feel
that I think takes a lot of effort, because a lot of times I can't do that. I'm a control freak.
That's right.
It's been a part of my whole life, especially even more like after I joined the military, is like I want to be able to control every little aspect. And it wasn't beneficial to my overall well-being. Like I, you know, would stress out about the littlest things. Things would set me off. So honestly, it's like a daily thing. It's a daily thing of just saying, you know what, that's not my role. This is my role, right? And getting out of yourself. So when you think, I think when you think of others,
which is the hardest part,
Yeah.
is to get out of yourself. This is such a strong habit you've built through the years, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, you know, it's something I've built throughout the year. Well, yeah, it's something I'm consistently working on. You know, it's not something that I've perfected. I don't think it's something I'll ever perfect. But it's something that I really want to focus on, you know, in my life moving forward.
Yeah, good for you, man. And you feel as though you've making a strong amount of progress with that, yeah?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's just like everything. You know, sometimes you take a couple steps forward just to take a couple steps back. But I think as long as you're mindful of it, and you're actually, you know, doing the things necessary to work towards it, you know, that's all that matters, because you're not going to do it perfect every time. But as long as the effort's there and the desire, yeah.
I mean, hearing you talk, I feel as though you're just this monster of a productive guy, right? Fuck, would you categorize yourself as a do a lot person or do too much kind of guy?
I would definitely categorize myself as a do too much guy.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, what I think we were talking about earlier is just finding that balance. And I think that's something I've struggled with a lot, is like it's very easy for me to go all in on whatever I'm working at, whether it's work, family, a sport. I just go all in, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a healthy balance. So my new thing, you know, again, this last year, my journey has been trying to find balance through work, school, pleasure, whatever it may be.
Yeah. It's crazy. Some people lack that. Like they don't even have a scotch of that, and yet you just, I got too much. I got to slow that down or reduce that trait.
Yeah, and I think I'm, my own worst enemy in that regard. Is like, I love it. I love being able to take stuff on, but then I take on too much, and rather than say, hey, I probably should take off this off my plate, I'm like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. So yeah, I think that's a big one for me. I think if there's anything I could improve the most or would want to improve, it's being able to find that balance.
Okay, I'm glad we're here for you because we'll be able to chill your ass out.
Yeah,
So you can slow your roll a little, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't tell your age whether you're 25 or 35, you know what I mean? You look like you could live forever, bro.
I'm 33.
33, right?
I'll be 34 next month. Yeah.
Right in that pocket, right?
Yeah.
Okay, last question before, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I know you go into your routine with the plunging, and as a former military guy, you're one of the more hardcore beasts we have here. If you had a recommendation for someone new, what would that be for them to sort of, ease their way in?
Yeah. So, I think, were you here the first time I came in?
The very first time, I want to say the second time.
Okay, so the very first time I came in, I got into your warmest tub and I lasted all of like a minute. It was hard.
With the 50 degree.
It was hard.
Okay.
So I'd say like if you're coming in, keep an open mind. It's gonna feel like a shock to your body, but very quickly your body becomes accustomed.
Yeah.
And I would also say like come into it with at least some semblance of understanding of like different breathing exercises.
Got it.
Because I think breathing is so important when you're in the tub to just get out of the shock of the cold and the discomfort and just kind of settle in. That way you're able to kind of reap all the benefits of what the therapy does for you.
Yeah, so breathing, you're right, you're absolutely right. Sometimes I'll even forget to remind the new guys to breathe.
Yeah.
And as soon as I catch myself, just thought like, I can't believe I skipped this portion of the practice for you. And most people, they just jump in without thinking about breathing or their breath work at all.
Yeah, and I think, it's natural response when you get in that tub, you're just, and you tense up, right?
Yeah.
And then your body's going into flight or flight, or fight or flight at that point. So it's what's crazy is like the cold is automatically, activating your parasympathetic nervous system. But, we have the capability of channeling that activity within our parasympathetic nervous system.
I'm gonna pretend like I know what that means. Parasympathetic system. Could you explain what that is real quick? Because I don't want to be the guy who doesn't know it.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist or anything, but essentially like it's how your body's responding.
Okay.
So breathing, activates that.
Okay. So you're more in control of your body in that moment, as opposed to flight or fright. What's that? Panicking mode. Right?
Yeah. So for example, like freedivers, they focus a lot on breathing exercises so that they're staying calm underwater, which then gives their body more oxygen, all that stuff. So.
Okay, that really, I guess that's the best advice so far I've heard, because people tend to tell me about the patterns of going hot to cold or flashing or whatnot. Yeah. But breathing is something that I just got to make sure I remember to tell all the new plungers or whatnot.
Yeah, I think breathing is the absolute basic tenet, and then when you want to get into like protocols, that's a whole total different one. But I think the first thing is just being comfortable being cold, right? Because if you're not comfortable being cold, you're not going to want to do the plunge. Right? Yeah. So once you get past that discomfort, then you can get into the different protocols, and whether that's starting on hot, ending on cold, going back and forth, what that does. Yeah.
Now, what's your relationship with pain?
With pain?
Yeah, because it's painful when you're in there. Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of a glutton for punishment.
Oh.
That
helps a lot with the cold plunging.
It absolutely does. Okay. So I think the first time kind of felt like a little baby in there, and I couldn't do it.
But were you showing it in your face though?
Oh, I was, yeah. But then
Good.
the next time I came in, I was like, I'm gonna hit 2 minutes. You know? And then after I hit 2 minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hit 3. I'm gonna hit 4. And I've gotten up to 12 in it. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah,
but,
rad, man. We got to get that in once in a while, right?
Yeah, but I think you kind of dial in what you want your protocol to be after you've been coming here for a while.
Yeah.
So for me, like I always start with 15 to 25 minutes in the sauna, and then I do cold, and then sometimes I'll just do 1 cold plunge, or sometimes I'll do contrast, especially if I've done like anything that's built up a lot of lactic acid in my body.
Yeah.
I'll like to go cold and then hot and then cold again and then hot, just to circulate some of that fresh blood through.
Yeah.
And prevent like delayed onset muscle soreness, things like that.
Seems like there's a lot going there. You could unpack a lot of different patterns depending on the day, huh?
For sure.
Do you feel like I know I'm cheating a little, throwing a couple of questions, and I'll ask you a few more as we flow, and then get you back to your son, you know? So I don't want Abel to wait too long. Based off of that, do you feel yourself becoming a scientist of sorts, or just kind of discovering what your body's capable of?
I wouldn't say so much of that, but I think it's like, you got to be careful with a lot of stuff out there now, because like, especially I think wellness has become like a new trend, right? So you have, detox shots and IV drips and compression sleeves. So I feel like, if you're really going to get into recovery and things to benefit your body, you at least owe it to yourself to understand if there's any science behind it. So yeah, like when I think I did the plunge a couple times, at first it was like I loved the adrenaline from it, because I'm kind of adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
But after I talked with someone and they're like, oh yeah, it's really good for trauma, I was like, huh. So then I decided to like look into it a little bit. And yeah.
I feel as though with the trauma portion of it, people ask all the time what we do here, what I do for a living. I just tell them, hey man, I hustle pain.
Yeah.
I slang pain around the corner here in Gothard and Warner.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's like people come in, I just sell them pain. Because once you're in the tub, you convert that pain into joys, because you feel enough pain, it's just going to take that out of your system, and all of a sudden you have this mindset that just appreciate everything else around you.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the sauna is harder than the cold.
The sauna is?
Yeah. If you get into the sauna long enough, I think it's much more draining mentally than the cold. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because we sort of low-key been getting some of our UFC or, like former military guy like yourself, like Nick and stuff, into our 117 tub. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't gotten a chance to dial it down or up lately because of some of the members just requesting 110 to 112 in that safe zone. Yeah. But if you're ever interested, because after hours, we crank that bitch up.
Yeah, I think I've been in it when it was 115 before. And that's exhausting as well.
You get 10 minutes in that sucker, man. You're camping out here. Might as well give you a little sleeping bag for you to rest out for a minute.
Yeah, you're cooking, and I always wear my Whoop when I'm in there, and you'll just see my heart rate just climb.
It's insane, brother. It feels like you had ran like 2 marathons after like a 10-minute sesh. Yeah. And I tried to do at 117, 118. I couldn't even get past the 6-minute mark. Yeah. And my it's wild, but let's just save that for another conversation.
For sure.
And last but not least, if Sage could have one quality in life, and it could be anything, material or immaterial, to feel as though your life is fulfilled, what would that quality be?
Uninterrupted peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Uninterrupted peace?
Uninterrupted peace.
Uninterrupted peace.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that song by, like, The Sounds of Silence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
Would silence have a part to do with that?
Silence? I don't think so. I just think,
like void of people kind of peace?
No, I think just being at peace with everything you have and contentment, I think it's very easy, to lose track of what you already have around you in a search for more, right? Whether it's growth as a person, better job, more money, material things, like just being at peace.
I see. It's almost as if, I mean, I struggled with contentment growing up through my 30s, always wanting more.
Yeah.
And then I was one of those guys who kind of despised contentment, like contentment.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I mean, finally it dawned on me that, oh, contentment is a real thing.
Yeah.
But a balance of it, right?
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I think everyone has to find their own level of contentment, right? But then set realistic expectations once you get there.
Yeah.
I think that's the balance everyone's kind of searching for, you know? I don't think people work for nothing, you know, whether it's to appease an ego, to get to a better position, whether it's just ambition, whether it's pride, you know, whether it's to be able to provide for your family. There's always a rationale behind it, but, you know, figuring out what that is, the true reason, and then once you get it, not losing sight of it. And I think, you know, for me,
well said, brother.
It's very easy to lose sight of those things, you know. And again, I think it boils down to what I said, you know, earlier, is just having a little bit of gratitude. You know?
Yeah, well said, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you maintain that peace, because you seem to me like one of the more peaceful guys that I've met. It's
a daily process. I would say I'm human. You know, I have really good days. I have really, really bad days. I just got to constantly remind myself, you know, what is it that I want, you know, in life. Yeah.
Well, awesome work, brother. You know,
Pleasure.
we'll be here to remind you of anything, man.
Pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.